Sitting here now with Rashid Vali down in the Kohinoor basement, and we've got the Dick Khoza Chapita album coming out soon. And Rashid, I just wanted to find out from you, can you give us some background on why and how the Ashrams label started?
The Ashrams label started way back in the 70s, but it wasn't Ashrams at that time. I had the Soul Town and all the other independent labels. And then round about, I think, 69 or 70, when Abdullah Ibrahim came, then I started the Ashrams label. And the first one that we released was Menenberg, I think. And then of course the other ones that came on the other labels, I put them also on the Ashrams label. Ashrams came about by the name, the sun, in Arabic, you know, what you see the script that's in Arabic.
Obviously the Sun label is linked to obviously your long-term friendship with Abdullah Ibrahim.
With Abdullah Ibrahim, he gave us the name, and my brother-in-law AK, he designed it. And then I had a card the other day. Abdullah used to even run his karate school as Ashrams in Cape Town, and his music school. He ran it for a couple of years, and then because of the apartheid and all that, he went into self-exile and what have you.
Right.
And I carried on with putting all the other musicians on Ashrams. First one I did of Abdullah was the Peace album.
Yeah.
With it's a trio album. Abdullah Ibrahim plus two, Doro plus two. It's with Victor Antonio on bass and the late Nelson Mugwaza, who used to be playing with the Drive, I think, at the time. And when we did this, we did it at the Gallo Studio in Connor-Kirk and Gold Street. And after recording, this Kippy was in, and then we did the other session, Kippy plus three. And it had a good success. And we did a tune called Tinkinyana, which he recorded, I think, with Alvin Jones on Midnight Walk. And when he walked into my shop, it was the first time I met with him. And he says he'll do me a better version than the Atlantic one. And that's how we recorded this. And then after that, I think we recorded Underground in Africa, because he went away overseas and came back. And then he got a group from Cape Town called Oswiti. And that was the first recording we did with Berzo Kutsia and Robbie Johnson. And they stayed on with the stable for a long time. We did some other recording. We did Underground in Africa. We used a label called Mandla, which has an affinity to a mandla, and we didn't want to use that because the authorities at that time were looking for any excuse to put things down that had political connotations, you know, and especially talking about underground. So we managed to call it Mandla. After I recorded, what's his name, Menenberg, then we recorded this one, Shona, which features Kippy Moeketsi and Pet Machikisa. And they said we must record because they have something better than Menenberg. So there was this healthy sort of interaction with different musicians, and we recorded that. And here too, there was no fixed group, so we got the Beaters. And Sipho Mabuze is there, the late Selby and Tuli was there, and some other local musicians. And then of course we went around to Otete Bambiza, who's from the Eastern Cape, and we recorded an album called The Big Sound. And most of these had a fairly good success sales-wise. And I want to document these again, you know, and put it out. So Well, look, Menenberg is an exception. That thing solo, I think 50,000 in the first 6 months or something. And Shona sold maybe thousands. Underground in Africa was about 1,500 to 2,000. And these were all without radio play and no support from the record companies as such. It was by word of mouth. And to get it onto the SABC, you had to fill in 101 forms. And so we just forgot about them. It's all word of mouth. Dick Khoza, Chapita, we recorded around about 1976, I think. And what happened? There were all these local musicians, and in the 70s, the early 70s, there was a big upsurge in local jazz music output, you know. And the normal record companies, your Gallows and the Teals and what have you, were not interested in jazz per se. They only were looking for hits. And when the local artists came to me, they had complete freedom to record what they wanted. And Dick Khoza, he came to my shop and he says he's got something to record, and that's how we went and recorded.
There were about what, maybe about 50 LPs that you put out on Mushrooms?
About 50, yeah.
And it seems as though that period from 74, 75, 76, 77
right up to early 80s, I would imagine,
was a very creative period.
Was very creative. And then of course a lot of musicians went away and what have you.
Chapita, Muri bwanje ino a Chapita, inendikwela kuno, amai wanga wali bwanje, Chapita, inendikwela uko kumuzi, Chapita, Chapita, amai wanga wali bwanje, Chapita, inendikwela uko kumuzi, Chapita, Chapita.
And I mean, obviously on a personal level, operating as an entrepreneur in those days was difficult. I mean, there was Group Areas Act, there was influx control, that all impacted on people in very personal ways.
Yeah, well, it's endless. I mean, you know, you could write a whole book on that. It was very, very difficult. I mean, you used to go to recording sessions, weekends, in the evenings, during business hours. You used to work late at night. There were times when I had to go to the township to go and pick up some of the musicians. It was very difficult, but the atmosphere was strong, and we did what we had to do.
Chapita, 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 muri bwanje ino a Chapita, inendikwela